Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Alison, the online piano and the online violin tutor. So I'm going to talk to you about 3 traps every newbie violinist falls into. Now the first and the kind of biggest one is scattergunning around for videos. So it's a typical story. You've got yourself a violin, or you're looking to get yourself a violin. You've chosen which one you want to get. Violin arrives in the post, or you've gone and picked it up, whatever. Then what do? You want to know how to play the violin. So you go onto YouTube and you type in violin beginner lessons, how to play the violin, and then you click on a video, you get going, and then that video leads to something else, that video leads to something else, and then you look at this video and then you look at that video, and then in between you've got questions that are coming up going, well, how do I do this? Because the video that you've watched out hasn't covered the integral stuff in between, getting out the violin and doing whatever it is that's in the video, and you're having to then go onto YouTube again and ask YouTube all of the questions that are coming out because you're scattergunning around with videos. Now, the one thing you need to do is follow some kind of course. I do have a 1 to 30 violin course. I know a lot of you know. If you don't, I'll talk to you about that in a second. But you either need to follow a course, some kind of structure, and I don't mean just going around finding videos, by this person and that person, the other person. It would be like having a private teacher, a private tutor teaching you the violin 1 week, and then the next week you go off and have another lesson with someone else. Then 2 weeks after that, you're going on to someone else. So you're kind of teacher hopping, and you're learning different things from each teacher, and this teacher's going to be asking you what you knew and what you don't know, and then they're going to put you on a certain path that they believe is right for you, and then you go to another teacher and they're going to do exactly the same thing. So you're going to be getting crossed wires, mixed messages, mixed signals. You're not going to really be learning with one person, and B, going down the right path. So choosing the right course and choosing the right person to teach you is obviously quite important. I think for a teacher wise, as long as that teacher is good at the instrument that they're teaching, violin for example in this case, that's fine. But obviously you need to find a teacher that you can gel with, someone that you can talk to, someone that someone that you feel that you just understand their teaching and how they're delivering as well. So yes, I do have a 1 to 30 violin course, which is completely online. These are just some of the books here. I'll put a link to them in the description box underneath this video. So I've been teaching for around about 25 years. So the book course is a culmination of all of my 25 years of teaching. I've been playing for about 36 years now. So I've had a lot of years of teaching students, children, adults, everybody of all ages. I've seen hundreds of students, and I've taught hundreds of students in my career. I've also been an examiner for the London College of Music in the UK, various other things. So I decided to write a music course based on that. But also, when I did write my course many years ago, I've been on YouTube since 2011, and I realised there's a little bit of a gap in the market as well. So one thing I do notice about YouTube is that there is no consistency with the lessons. There's no lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3, lesson 4. There are lots of different videos that you can end up scattergunning about, and I get lots of messages about this all the time. Can you put videos into a playlist of things that you need to do? Well, I have. It's called a lesson series. If there are questions that arise outside of that, for example, you're learning how to play the violin, you're following my lesson course, lessons 1 to 10, that kind of thing. But then, for example, you're thinking to yourself, how do I rosin the bow? Or how much do I rosin the bow? Or how often do I rosin the bow? How do I tighten the bow? Then you can go onto YouTube, and then you can find those kind of questions. The answer to those questions, but they're not particularly detrimental to your learning. So the one thing that you do need to do is make sure you're not scattergunning with your learning. Make sure you are following a course, whether that be an online course like mine. Mine is a 1 to 30 violin course, so there's 30 lessons, and these books are downloadable, you can print them out at home, whatever. So whether you're following my course or anything like that, or a teacher that you've got in person, make sure you're not scattergunning videos. You can by all means look at videos to learn how much to tighten the bow, how to rosin the bow, all the kind of little videos that you've got sort of in between that might crop up as and when. Those kind of videos are quite difficult to put into a playlist because they're not going to be cropping up at the exact same time for each person. So when you go to a teacher, those questions can be answered at the time of those questions occurring to you. But obviously when you're learning a course, maybe you're going through my 1 to 30 violin course, and on lesson 6 you might suddenly think to yourself, oh, I need to put some more rosin on. How do I do that? So then you can go on to YouTube. I do have a lesson on how to rosin the bow, how much to tighten the bow. I've pretty much got a video on everything because I've been on YouTube for 11 years now. So you might get to lesson 6 and think to yourself, yeah, I need to put some rosin on my bow. How much rosin do I put on? And that's when you can go on and you can have a look at those sorts of things. So scattergunning your lessons is never a good idea. Either seek a professional, so you've got a violin teacher that you're seeing once every week or once every 2 weeks, whatever's convenient for you, or you are following some kind of online course. Okay, the second trap that newbie violinist falls into: slow down when practicing. Now, I wish I could go back and tell myself this, and I did to some degree, but I think the power of slow practicing holds more power than I think people think it does. You think you might be practicing slow, but you're not. So what practicing slow does is make you realize what you're doing. It gives the brain time to process what the fingers are doing and what the eyes are looking at, and all that kind of thing. When you're playing very, very fast, you're concentrating on the speed. A lot of things go out the window when you're playing fast because you're just trying to get through. You're trying to be as accurate as you can and get the notes out and not fumble around with the fingers and that kind of thing. And it's not really good practice. If you can't play something perfectly slow, you definitely can't play it fast. So you've got to learn to slow down your practice. And by slow, I mean painfully slow. That's why people don't want to do it, because it's always about hurrying up. I want it now. I want it yesterday. I don't want to save up for anything. I want to buy it now, kind of thing. So we live in a very impatient culture. I'm very impatient with things. People who know me will know that I'm very impatient, and I want things yesterday. I want things done now. But some things you just can't, and especially with something like the violin, if you want to be good and you want to progress very quickly, you've got to slow your practice down and you've got to be very thorough with your practicing. Okay, now the third trap every newbie violinist falls into is not focusing on what your bow is doing. So we're always too busy concerning ourselves with what the fingers here are doing, and then we suddenly lose what the bow is doing. But I'll tell you what, the bow is probably more important, in my opinion, than what the fingers here are doing. Yes, the fingers are going to give you the sound in a way that you want, but the bow is what creates the sound. So if I'm just doing this on the violin, there is no sound. But as soon as I put the bow down, that is what gives me the sound. Then the fingers will give me the particular notes, whatever it is, but the sound is coming from the bow. What the ear is hearing is all coming from the bow. But what newbies kind of get so tied up with is trying to get their fingers right, trying to, not do all of this, trying to get their intonation right, but you're not focusing enough on the bow, in my opinion. So for example, violin goes to the front, everybody's doing this, so you're hunched up like that instead of being nice and out. Like I said, in many videos, we want a nice, we want the bow to be perpendicular to the violin. We don't want it like this. We don't want it like that. We certainly don't want to be bowing like we're sawing a piece of wood. We don't want to be bowing like this so that we're doing all of that. We want to be just nice and straight with the bow. But I think as newbies, it's very easy to get tied up in a lot of other things, so that we end up focusing too much on the left hand and not enough on the right hand. And the right hand is what dictates the sound. And then you're writing in the comments to me, why doesn't my violin playing sound very nice? Why does it sound very screechy? Why does it sound very scratchy? Etc, etc. You guys know the drill. And that's why. So just focus a little bit more on the sound that is coming out. And I know there's lots of things going on. I know there's this going on, brain, eyes. you know, the coordination of one hand going that way, one hand, there's lots of things going on. You know, I'm not denying that. That's what makes the violin a very difficult instrument. It's what makes the violin also a very beautiful sounding instrument. But just focus a little bit more on the sound. So if you're not happy with the quality of the sound, maybe it's too scratchy, maybe it's too scrapey, maybe you're hitting a lot of other strings, maybe the sound sounds okay at one point and then it doesn't at another point, that could probably be because you're doing that. Now, as soon as I bow onto the fingerboard, you can hear that the sound starts to kind of waver a little bit and it sounds a little bit transparency. So focus a little bit more on the bow and that should help you. So there we go. Thank you very much for watching. 3 traps every newbie violinist falls into. I will put a link to my 1 to 30 violin course if you're interested in having a little bit of a gander at that. First 10 lessons and all the resources you need for it are absolutely free. So you've got nothing to lose. If you want to just have a go at the first 10 lessons, get yourself going on those. If you like, you know, if you like what you're doing at that point, then you can, you know, get yourself Songbook 1. All the books can be bought individually or all together as a package. It's a little bit cheaper to buy it all together. So yeah, if you want to have a look at that, I'll stick that all in the link underneath this video. So thank you for watching and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.